but I wanted to share something that was, it was something that at the beginning of this whole situation, the example came to me, and I said, wow, you know, this really applies to this time of lockdown, and where we just don't have, like you were saying, in control. We can't just go to get the kind of toilet paper that the brand that we always need. So again, she rises while it's yet night and gives food to her household. That's us. So I'd like to share a Bible account that I'm so surprised, and I never expected that I would experience in my life. That, you know, the Bible is, you know, it says that there's types and shadows and are things for our benefit, you know, so that we take and draw from that. So I'm sure that all of you, when I mention a couple of words, are going to know exactly where I'm drawing from. But if you get the image of 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows, okay, and that comes from a dream that Pharaoh had, and as is my family's bent, we like to exhort and admonish. So hopefully I don't take up too much time, but I really feel that this is a very appropriate lesson for us in this time. So I'd like to read out of the book of Genesis, chapter 47, verses 14 through 20. And for those that might be newer that aren't quite familiar, Pharaoh had a dream about 7 cows that were fat and flourishing being absorbed and eaten by 7 lean cows, and that represented 7 prosperous years, and then followed by 7 years of famine. So, well, that's where we're starting from, and it says, and Joseph, who had been put in charge by Pharaoh because he was determined to be so wise, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan in exchange for the grain that they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? For our money is gone. And Joseph answered, give your livestock, and I will give you food in exchange for your livestock, if your money is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the herds, and the donkeys. He supplied them with food in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when that year was ended, they came to him again the following year and said to him, we will not hide from my lord that our money is all spent. The herds of livestock are my lord's. There's nothing left in the sight of my lord but our bodies and our land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we with our land will be servants to Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, and that the land may not be desolate. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for all the Egyptians sold their fields because the famine was severe on them, and the land became the Pharaoh's. So a couple things I want to highlight here in verse 23, after it says, Joseph then said to the people, behold, this day I bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And they said, you have saved our lives. May it please my Lord, we will be servants to Pharaoh. So there's practical examples that we can draw from this account, and I like to use the word account in that story because it's not a fable. This is an actual event that happened, and so I like to say the words like report, account, event, because these aren't fairy tales. These are actual things that happen to people. So as a practical application, in the times of plenty, Joseph gathered from the abundance. And he didn't spend it all. But the other people had that same opportunity, but they didn't take advantage of it, right? And in verse 14, they say to him, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan in exchange for the grain that they bought. And Joseph brought the money into the house of the Lord. So he was gathering this money and he was storing it all up and he wasn't spending it. And when the people didn't have anything left, when they had wasted everything, they came to him. In verse 15, it says, and in a different translation, it says when the money failed. So I want to say that, you know, money is obviously failing. We need to look to God's supply. In the Old Testament, there was an example that God supplied for the children of Israel with manna in the wilderness. They had no resources. They had no cattle. They did have cattle, but they didn't have things to provide for themselves. And the cattle were basically for sacrifices. So he supplied the manna, okay? In Egypt, the people were looking to who? They were looking to Pharaoh. They were looking to the government. They were looking to Joseph. And as children of God, we're supposed to be looking to God, okay? In Jeremiah, it talks to us about trusting in the arm of flesh. And even if we're receiving from our jobs, from unemployment, from the government, even if we have to go to those sources to get what we need, God is still our source of supply. It's not our jobs. Our jobs were not ever our source, okay? So that's one thing I think that we can all see through this, that no matter what, our trust has to be in who? It has to be in the God who supplies, Jehovah Jireh. Okay, if you can't go to the hospital and get treated, we are forced to trust in who? The God who supplies. The God who supplies all our need according to his riches and glory. So we can look back into verse 12, and it says that Joseph was sent there, and it says Joseph provided for his father and his brothers and his household, his father's household. Joseph nourished his family. So he's already gone ahead and he's made a provision for every one of you ladies for what you need. For Sandra, for the strength that she needs, for the situation with the wedding that's coming up, for every single one of us, no matter what it is. He's already sent ahead and made the provision. And as Christians, we can't look to the arm of flesh, okay? So on a practical side, we can look back in the future and say that, just like Joseph, don't spend everything that we got. Don't live to the max of our budget. Put things aside for the future. It's a practical application. And so the last thing that I just want to share, you know, is reading from Proverbs 31:15. This is a women's meeting. We can all draw from this because this is who we are. Okay? It says, Proverbs 31:15, she rises while it is yet night, and she gives food to her household.